All right, guys, welcome back to Strong Successful Male. So for today, I'm going to go over an article here that's definitely going to give you guys a pretty good laugh. And it truly will take the word delusional to a whole new level, okay? And the title of the article is, Why Can't a Glamorous Midlife Woman Like Me Find a Decent Man? Despairing divorcee, 58, has auditioned countless suitors with comically disastrous results. And so this article is about a woman who's 58 years old. She's been divorced for some time now, and basically is complaining because she can't find any right guys out there. She's given up on love, dating, the whole nine yards, because there aren't good enough guys out there. Meanwhile, she's been out with many guys, so it hasn't been a problem for her to get guys to see her and so forth. The problem is that she's so picky that none of them are good enough for her. And so she's given up on love and dating and all that because it's not her, it's them. And by the way, a big shout out to Logan, my subscriber, for sending this over to me, because this really made me laugh when I saw this article. And you're going to see through this article, guys, just truly how delusional she is, because, again, she may have been smoking hot and great body, the whole nine yards, in her 20s, but she's in her late 50s. And she's decades away from her prime. And as I've said before, a woman's prime is her late teens into her 20s. But once a woman gets to her 30s, even though you can have plenty of damn good-looking women smoking hot bodies in their 30s and even 40s, it's just not the same. Okay? It's the same way that guys in their early 20s just aren't as appealing as a man in his 30s and 40s that is into his career, makes good money, has status, and of course if he takes care of himself. It's just a different ballgame. It's different with each sex in terms of what we're attracted to. And a lot of these women, as I've done videos before, I've done videos of women in their 30s complaining that there's no guys out there. I've done videos of women in their 40s complaining that there's no guys out there and no good suitors and all that, but are completely delusional, thinking they're as appealing in their 30s and 40s as their 20s. But now we got someone in her 50s, 58, close to 60, that's doing the same thing. It's crazy. So I'm going to go through this article here, and you're going to see what I'm talking about, because it's very entertaining. And she definitely complains about a lot of things that some of these guys that she's gone out with or that they do, that women do. That it's happened to me, that's happened to many of you guys, that women pull on dates, and she's frustrated because guys are doing it. But they're leveling the playing field. So starts out saying, Kim Thompson clutches a piece of paper in her well-manicured hands. On it, she has written the names of boyfriend she met while dating online. She talks me through the list. First, there was Complicated Chris, followed by Ben, who was a disappointment in bed, and Strange Tim, who had a habit of talking nonstop about his collection of Hornby toy trains. Picky. Then there was the property developer who took her out for dinner, slopped spaghetti down his front, and told Kim on their first date how much he likes sex. There are lots of others too, whom she came across when she turned to the internet matchmaking sites to find a long-term partner. Okay, the guy talking about how much he likes sex on the first date, that's stupid to do, but I mean, it's funny for us to listen to, but the guy who likes trains, who gives a shit? If he's a good guy, good looking, fun to be around, who cares about the stupid trains? But this is the crap that they complain about. Goes on, but please don't portray me as a manhunter, she begs, perching on an immaculate white sofa in her home. They seem to be either liars, hopeless in bed, had a mean streak, or had a former wife hovering in the background. In normal times, Kim has a good job running an architect's office. At 58, the divorcee owns a 3-bedroom house in a smart London suburb and looks 10 years younger than her age. You expect her to be pursued by a string of eligible men. Well, you're going to see in this article that she definitely goes out with a lot of guys, but you're going to see that she wants the top percentage of guys. You know, the top guys that are, in terms of, they're a big catch in terms of how much money they make, what kind of title they have in terms of their job, how much money they actually have, all these things. But the thing is, and that a lot of these women don't get, is she's 58, okay? And so if she's looking for a guy in that age range, let's just say the 50s, that is, you know, which she considers to be her equal or someone that's a prize. If you have a single guy in his 50s and he makes good money, has good status, has all these nice things, and would be her type, so to speak, do you think he's going to spend his time dating a woman in their 50s? Or is he going to go after women in their 30s and 20s? Duh. If you can, what are you going to do? My dad was 50 years old when my mom was 26. Okay? Because he could. He was divorced. First marriage didn't work out. He was single for a while. And when he met my mom, he was still in the Navy. He was 45 and she was 21. And he retired from the Navy a little bit later on as a commander. And he went on to private practice as a doctor. He had status as a naval officer, commander, and he was a doctor in Los Angeles. And he made damn good money, drove a Mercedes, and he was a very educated, good guy. And so he had no problem having a 20-something. So guys that are successful in that type of area and have it, why would they date a woman in her 50s or even her 40s when they can get 20-somethings, even 30-somethings? It's a no-brainer, right? It's the same thing as a woman in her 20s, in her prime. Why would she date a guy in his early 20s who's working part-time at Applebee's and going to college part-time to become a doctor? Right then, he's not in his prime to her when she can go out with guys in their 30s or 40s, have tons of money and all the things they can shower her with and all, right? So just guys are doing what they can do at that point in time. But for her and other women like that, they're delusional to think that because maybe one day in the past they had all the appeal that drew men to them doesn't mean they're going to have it later on, especially in your 50s. So you can't be so picky. It's crazy. She goes on to say, yet early this year, Kim reluctantly made the decision to give up on love and romance, scarred by 2 years of trying to find a man online with whom she might actually want to form a long-term relationship. 2 years of dating and she couldn't find one good guy. That's insane. And let's just say that some of the guys had their weird quirks and things like that. If they were good guys and things like that, you gotta definitely, if you're a 58-year-old woman, even if you are pretty for 58, I'm sorry, it's slim pickings. You can't have the top percentage of guys in that age range. It's not going to work. Maybe you can, and I'm being generous here, get a guy in his late 60s. I'm being very generous, that may meet the standards that this woman or anyone like that sets. Probably more like 70s. But a guy in his 50s that's going to match? No way. They're dating the 20-somethings and the 30-somethings like my dad did. She goes on saying, she is speaking up now because she wants other women to know that internet dating can be a fool's game. Internet dating is definitely not all what it cracked up to be, but I've had a lot of fun with internet dating. I know plenty of people that have both men and women, so it's just that this woman is crazy picky. And that's why she's alone and unhappy. And instead of owning up to this, she just wants to just trash the whole thing and, bitch and complain. No accountability here. She says, after half a decade of having no significant other, gee, I wonder why, and she freely confesses no sex, she turned to online dating. With all her friends long married, there was little other option to meet single men. You can meet single men anywhere. You can meet people anywhere. The grocery store, CVS, Target, the mall, restaurant, bar, sporting event. You can meet people anywhere. Just start talking. It's a numbers game. And it goes both ways for women or men. But like Candace Bushnell, author and creator of the blockbuster TV series Sex and the City, which charted the 1990s New York dating scene, Kim found the whole experience a bitter disappointment. Candace, who sampled internet dating to research her semi-fictional memoir, Is There Still Sex in the City?, told the Mail in a recent interview, it was just shockingly sad. There was such a lack of quality men. Well, I don't know how old the lady who wrote this is, but what does she have to offer? Right? And the type of quality of guys that she wants, are, unless she is much younger, in her 20s or maybe 30s, I'm being generous here, and is smoking hot and all these things, the older you get, for women, they got to take what they can get. That doesn't mean they got to take someone that is obviously a jerk and abusive and all that, but you got to stop being so picky because your prime is long past. Understand this. See here, Candace cited the example of Arnold, a frisky, sexist septuagenarian who declared when giving her a tour of his home, including the bedroom, "I've had a lot of great sex on that bed. I hope to have a lot more in the future." Well, that's a pretty douchebag thing to say, but it's funny. I'll give her that. Candace blamed herself for failing to find love on the internet, saying that at 61, she's probably too picky when it comes to men. That is not an expression Kim recognizes. Why not be picky? She asks. I found that there were too few decent ones to pick from. That was the trouble. Why not be picky? Because at 58 years old, again, you're well past your prime. Kim's internet dating adventures began in 2018. Divorced for 15 years and the mother of 28-year-old twins, she had been in 2 relationships since her marriage ended, but by then had been single for 5 years. She has a small circle of friends, mostly of them married, but rarely sees a fresh face, particularly a male one. Well, if she lives in London, I've been to London once. I was there for a whole month. It was a great month. Had a lot of fun there. It's a busy city. There are people everywhere. It shouldn't be hard to go places and meet people. Come on here. Her office-based job and site visits to mainly family homes mean her chances of bumping into a new man are slim. Just excuses. She explains, I was pottering along, happily single, until 2 years ago when a girlfriend said, you don't want to be alone for the rest of your life, and suggested I try online dating. Don't blame the girlfriends. She admits, I was quite naive. I thought the men were looking for what I was looking for, a committed relationship, possibly marriage. I couldn't have got it more wrong. Well, men are waking up, so it's a whole different world in that regard now. Financially self-sufficient, she says she was keen to find a go-getter, someone who has achieved something in his life, who was educated, had old-fashioned values, and would join her on adventures exploring the world. Well, at 58 years old, if you're looking for that, you guys stop looking for guys in their 50s. It's not going to work. Because those guys that are single and have all that, again, they're dating dudes in they're dating girls in their 20s and 30s. You should be looking for a guy at least in his late 60s, more like 70s. And there are guys out there that in their late 60s and 70s that have had a lot of success in life and take care of themselves and look good for their age. A woman in her 50s would be more appealing to a man in his 70s. Just being honest here, just being realistic. Instead, what she found was having tried a range of websites including Match.com, Bumble, Tinder, and Zoosk, was a generation of men who were economical with the truth about their looks and lifestyles, relentlessly bitter about their ex-wives, and looking for sex or to find a woman who would support them financially. The men will have a series of pictures in their profiles, and the initial ones will often be decades old. When they got hair and no paunches, says Kim. It's only when you reach the last picture that you might get something of the truth. A balding, overweight man with bad teeth. Well, guess what? Women all the time will put pictures of themselves on the online dating sites that definitely, they don't look like the picture shows. Okay, it could be years old and they could be 20 pounds lighter with longer hair. It happens all the time. So don't make it out to be just guys do this. Women do it too, and we all know this. She continues, I met one for coffee, and after seeing his photo with blonde hair, then chatting to him on the phone, in reality he had gray hair and a pot belly. Okay, he's not what he obviously said he was, and that's not cool. But again, women do it too. He was 20 years older than he looked on the dating site. I just said goodbye to him on the spot. And of course, if a guy would do that to a woman, then women would be all over saying how horrible it was. But because she's a woman, she can get away with this. They post pictures of themselves with their children to make themselves look like good family men, when in reality, they have no intention of settling down. Or they will pose by a Mercedes or a yacht. And knowing what I know now, I'd be very skeptical whether they actually own them. Well, guys, don't put yourself, if you're doing online dating, don't put yourselves next to a yacht or a Mercedes pretending it's your own. That's lame. Come on here. And it shows you're trying too hard. But for the guys showing pictures of family, maybe they are family men in terms of they have their families and kids and love them, but they're not looking to settle down, so who cares? They just want to have a good time. Here we go. Listen to this. There is little sense of chivalry left either. I am happy to pay my way, but in the old days, men would have offered to pay for your dinner. Very few do now. Well, we all know who you can thank for the lack of chivalry or the lack of gentlemen in this world. We all know it. Who can we thank? The feminist movement. We all know it. So don't complain there. One man I met for coffee actually stood back when the waitress asked who was paying. He didn't even go halves with me on a coffee. Again, blame the feminist movement. Goes on, internet dating is like a sweatshop. So men will show interest in hundreds of women, but I don't think they really want to follow it up. They're always looking for something better. Don't women do the same thing? Women are always looking for something better too. So what if guys are doing it? We're just, we're doing what's best for us. So don't complain about us when you girls do the same exact thing. There is something called breadcrumbing, where a man will throw out crumbs of interest in you, a message every so often, just to keep you interested in him. Again, who does this? Right? How many women string men along the same exact way? They don't call it breadcrumbing. That's obviously a new term, but women do the same thing. So if guys are doing it, why are we the root of all evil when women do this all the time? How many of you guys have had that situation? How many of you guys have had that happen to you? Come on here. There must be some lovely men out there who are genuinely interested in having a committed relationship, but it's like looking for a needle in a haystack. I've had no idea how to find them. At times, I sat at home crying. I asked myself, what I've done wrong? Am I too old? Am I unattractive? Looking at her pictures, she's pretty for her age. She really is, but she's delusional to think that she can get these types of guys that she wants. She's going to have to stop being so picky. She's going to have to cast her net further and go for older guys if she wants that. That's just how it is. She's not in her 20s anymore, even her 30s. Different game out there. Of course, she is neither of these things, but listening to her litany of romantic disappointments, it is easy to understand her despondency, especially as it all started so well with her first internet date. And now it goes into a few of her dates. It says here, he was called Chris, age 57, and lived in the home counties. He had a sales job. We chatted online and then over the phone, and there was definitely a connection. He was so easy to talk to. He had been separated for 5 years and had 3 kids, she says. When we met for coffee, we hit it off well. There was a lot of sexual chemistry between us. He used the love word quite quickly within a couple weeks. Well, that's stupid. I thought I'd found the right person for me. But as time went on, it emerged that Chris had some tricky emotional baggage. Despite splitting from his wife 5 years before, he had never got a divorce. I thought it was a bit odd, but I didn't want to push it at first. After a while, though, I began to wonder why. He also talked about her a lot and how she had left him and after having an affair at work. That's when the trouble began. Well, that's a lot, I'll be fair. As both of them were working, they would meet on a Saturday evening, and Chris would ask him to meet him at precisely 7:15. He instructed me to never turn up before then so as not to bump into his daughter, who was in her early 20s. She visited him for a sandwich after her day's work at a shop. To begin with, I understood that he wanted to take things slowly. My son lives with me, and I would want to be sure before introducing him to someone new. But this went on for months. Well, she obviously could tell something was up, and she should have trusted her instincts. But, when you're new to all this, it's tough. I'll be fair there. I think he was worried that if I met his daughter, she would tell his estranged wife I was on the scene. He wanted me to be a secret. When I left my pink hairbrush at his place once, he panicked and said he'd have to tell his daughter it belongs to a work colleague who had visited him. Yeah, well, this guy's daughter would never believe that in a million years. And a lot of times women will leave their stuff at your house or your apartment on purpose. That way they can ensure they get to come back. Little tip, guys, in case you didn't know that. After nearly 6 months of strange Saturday night meetings and a couple of outings to the pub, Kim threw in the towel. We had an argument on the phone about me having to go to his flat all the time. I realized he was a wimp. He was never going to break free from his wife, and he was tight it was always me bringing expensive champagne and food to his flat. But also, guys, you can see here, this guy obviously was a big challenge. Notice this guy, he didn't make it easy for her. It was a challenge, and obviously she could probably sense kind of the bad boy vibe because her gut, I guarantee you, being 58 years old and probably her life experience, I'm sure her gut was telling her something's up. But she liked the challenge and the drama, which a lot of women like, and there you go. Although she felt dejected, Kim was soon dating again. This time she hitched up with Ben, a 58-year-old hedge fund manager from a trendy part of London, who had a 2-bedroom flat. He was at least divorced, she says, wirily. We were on a level playing field financially, see that? And he was a university graduate who had studied classics. I am really interested in ancient Rome, so when we met for the first time at a restaurant in Richmond during the afternoon, we chatted about it for ages. He was a good conversationalist. Afterwards, he walked me back to my car. He kissed me on the lips. When I got home, he texted me if we can meet again that same night. We walked along the river and stopped at a pub where we both had mineral water. He was a strict vegan, and I don't drink wine, so again, we were on the same page. She got her hopes up with Ben, whose hobby was going to jive dancing classes. Asked her to stay overnight a few weeks later. He appeared the perfect gentleman, says Kim. We had a Thai meal, talked about Romans, then went back to his flat. But when we climbed into bed, he just turned his back on me. He showed no interest in being intimate. The next morning, he said he was sorry. He said it happened with his last girlfriend, and if we tried again a few times, it might get better. She hoped their sex life would spark up. It never did. There was always the same dismal outcome. It was embarrassing for him. He had some difficulty in that department. She says now, not surprisingly, she let the relationship fade away. Well, that's going to happen. So you guys in this situation, talk to your doctor about getting the blue pill, okay? Because no matter how much a girl likes you, and I'm going to be fair here, no matter how much a woman or girl likes you, if you can't take care of business, it's not going to happen. So if you're having problems down south, talk to your doctor, get a pill. Make things a lot easier for you. Next was a banker called Nick, who was divorced and a couple of years younger than her, whom she started dating with high hopes again. We would speak for hours at the time, she said. We both loved cooking, so we had that in common, and we were from the same part of the country. They arranged a date by booking into London hotels because Nick lived far away and would visit expensive restaurants during their stays. He would pick up a tab for £150 and say, I should pay for the next one, but the next one would be £240. He was so mean, says Kim. Well, maybe this guy's been around the block and he knows he doesn't want to go bankrupt and a lot of these women on these dates. Most troubling was his heavy drinking. I think he had a problem, she says. I was always drink after drink after drink with him. He was extremely bitter about his ex-wife too. While we did sleep together, it was less than satisfactory. I think there were some issues because of his drinking. So her list of featured failed romances goes on. Unshaven Tim from Hampshire drove her in a dilapidated car for a weekend to the New Forest before boring her about his collection of Hornby toy trains. Come on, if he's a good guy, who cares about the stupid trains? And supposedly, as they show in all the movies, if women have money and success, they shouldn't care about guys that may not have as much money and success. But we all know that's TV and movies, and it's a bunch of shit. Then there was film director called Steve, who incessantly dropped names of famous people he had met. The last straw was a man who invited her as his date to his birthday party, that ignored her all night, even though she had gone to the trouble of baking him a cake and buying him an expensive pen as a present. She says here, I think many men who go on online dating sites lie about wanting a committed relationship, she says. They say that they get to meet a woman and because they think is what she wants to hear. I checked some of my men out. They were still looking for other partners on the internet when I was seeing them. It was a huge letdown to find out they were cheating on me. But this just seems to be the way now. Kim has given up on her internet search for a man. Like Candace Bushnell, she reckons there just aren't enough decent ones to go around. That's bullshit. She concludes, rather sadly, screwing up the list in her hand into a tiny ball. I don't think I will ever find love again. Well, just like, you know, I tell guys in any other situation like that, you got to keep on trying, keep on trying, keep on trying. So this woman just throwing her hands up in the air and saying that's it, that's stupid. If that's what she truly wants to have, a guy. But this woman is way, way, way too picky, needs to understand that, again, she's not in a position to have top guys. That's just reality, okay? I'm not saying to be mean. I'm being honest here, okay? And once she accepts that, then she might have an easier time and find some happiness here. But I will say this, to be fair, there were some guys on there that definitely were jackasses. But you don't give up. But again, understand this, ladies, the ones that watch this, either you like me or you hate me. The older you get, the less options you have. That's just how it is. And for guys, it's the opposite with us. When we're in our early 20s and we don't have any money or job or status, you think we can get these top, beautiful, smoking hot women? No way. We obviously have to get to the point where we're in our prime. When we're not in our prime, we can't be demanding, and we can't throw our hands in the air and say, that's it, I can ever have a woman if that's what you want. No, you're just not in your prime yet. So, all right, guys, that's it for today. Be sure to comment down below. Let me know what you think about this. And be sure to like the video, share with your friends, and subscribe. And I will talk to you next time.